Good morning. Good afternoon, I guess. I'm Kim Coble. I'm the Executive Director of the Maryland League of Conservation Voters. And thank you for joining us for our last Friday Digest of 2022. We really appreciate you participating with us. This has been a bit of an experiment for us. And when we started this about 11 or 12 months ago, we weren't sure how it was going to go, but we have really enjoyed putting these sessions on with you, giving you information, hearing your feedback, and would love to continue to engage with you. We plan on continuing this program into 2023, and there is something we need you to help us with. If you can put your name in the chat as well as where you're from, just so we get a sense of who's here, that would be helpful. The other thing is we really would like to hear from you what you want this program to be about. What kind of information would you like us to present to you? What kind of speakers do you want? What questions do you have that you need answers to? How can we help you be a well-informed, well-engaged advocate on behalf of Maryland's environment? That's the big question. So keep us posted either through the chat or after this Friday Digest. Send us an email or a text or whatever you want to do to get a hold of us. But we really are interested in your feedback. So looking forward to hearing from you. When we look back on 2022, it has been quite a year for us, and we are really pleased to report that the environment had a very, very productive year. First and foremost, we passed the most ambitious climate bill in the country through the Climate Solutions Now Act. Couldn't have done it without you. Very proud of the legislators that voted for it and continue to support it. Secondly, Maryland had an election. And part of Maryland LCV's work is to do the research and into candidates, their positions on the environment, their positions on equity and climate, and let you know who we believe would be the strongest environmental candidates out there. And that's when we endorse these candidates and work for them and try to get them elected. In the end, 93% of the candidates that we endorsed were elected, and that wouldn't have happened without strong voters and people engaged and strong candidates. So we're really pleased with those outcomes for 2022. We are not putting our feet up on our desk quite yet. We have been working diligently with the Governor-elect Moore's transition team. I chair the climate and environment transition team, and we're working very hard to help ensure that that administration is postured to make really ambitious progress on climate and equity issues. We are also working hard to make sure they appoint good, smart, committed conservation leaders into the positions that will be in the secretaries and whatnot. So we are here for you. We're working hard to make sure that the voices and the concerns of the conservation community are represented. And yeah, so we're doing a lot of work, and we continue to work on that. Today's focus on Friday Digest, however, is really looking forward. What kind of legislative actions are we looking for in 2023? We don't have everything buttoned up yet, so this is still where we're at in our thinking and our processing. But so if you have feedback, please let us know. I am very honored to be joined by my colleagues. Deputy Director Ramon Palencia Calvo is here to talk to us about transportation, and Kristen Harbison, our political director, is here to talk to us about community solar. So we'll jump into those details. Also, I'm very honored to have our Director of Development, Laura Wood, join us today. And she's going to keep you inspired to make sure that we can keep the lights on and keep doing our work. So that's the agenda for the day. And with that, let me start on 100% clean energy. And I believe, Kristen, if we could get slide 3 up, that would be great. There you go. So one of the things, the Climate Solutions Now Act set out the most ambitious goals for emission reductions, right? So it says 60% of our greenhouse gas emissions need to be reduced by 2031, most ambitious goal in the country. Additionally, we need to have net zero greenhouse gas emissions by 2045. So lots of, actually go back to the previous slide, please. Lots of work happening in that area. One of the things that we believe is critical to achieving those emission reduction goals is our energy, where we want to make sure that the energy that we are using, the energy that we're generating is clean energy. Fortunately, Governor-elect Moore in his campaign said he is committed to 80% of the energy generation in Maryland by 2030 and 100% by 2035 come from clean sources. So we are very supportive of that. We're working with his administration to really help put in programs that get to that clean energy. Everything we're talking about today falls under that, where the sources of those energy, how that energy gets used, where it's deployed, all of that matters to reaching our greenhouse gas reduction goals. So as we talk about these programs, think of that. That's ultimately what we're driving for. Our priorities include reducing emissions from transportation. Transportation is a leading source of greenhouse gas emissions in Maryland. How do we get those reduced? And Ramon's going to speak about this in a little bit. How do we make our buildings, which is the second leading source of greenhouse gas emissions, new buildings, existing buildings have to be more energy efficient. We have to build these so that they're electric dependent and not gas or fossil fuel dependent. That's a big initiative that we're working on. And we need more renewable energy sources. We need more offshore wind, we need more solar, and Kristen's going to share some thoughts about that. These policies will have huge implications to our environment. Additionally, as we advance these policies, we have a very strong commitment to ensuring equity and ensuring that the communities that are bearing the disproportionate amount of impact from the pollution are not left behind, that the underserved, overburdened communities are top priority in reducing impacts to them. So that's a big part of what we're doing in our policy agenda as well. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Ramon, who's going to share some thoughts around transportation. Ramon?
Just unmuting. Thank you so much, Kim, and thank you everyone for joining us today. So as Kim was mentioning, we are committed to our goal of reaching 100% clean energy by 2035. And the gradual phasing out of harmful fossil fuels that have devastating consequences for our health and the health of our families. And to reach this goal and cut emissions 60% by 2031, we need to address the single largest contributor to greenhouse gases in Maryland, transportation. And in 2023, we will have two very important opportunities to support this goal. The first opportunity is through electrification of school buses. Maryland has a fleet of more than 72,000 diesel school buses, and every day, more than 650,000 children riding one of those diesel buses and are exposed to those emissions. The Climate Solutions Now Act authorized the creation of a pilot program to support school districts across Maryland in transitioning diesel to electric school buses. We need to ensure in 2023 that this pilot program is designed and implemented by all four utilities. And it is an equitable program where school districts across Maryland have the opportunity to enjoy the benefits of the program. We also need to secure adequate funding to support school districts in this transition from diesel to electric buses. This year, 8 school districts across Maryland submitted applications to the EPA's Clean School Bus Program for a total of $31 million. But unfortunately, only one school district was funded, leaving over $21 million of unfunded proposals. In 2019, the General Assembly created Maryland's Electric School Bus Transition Grant Program. And this program supports school districts in transitioning their fleets to electric. We need to ensure the program is funded. And while we will continue encouraging school districts to take advantage of federal funding like they have been doing, We also need to secure state funds to support those school districts that are ready today to transition their fleets. And finally, we will continue advocating for adequate support for school districts in this transition, including technical support that is very important for school districts. Another important opportunity for Maryland to reduce greenhouse gas emissions from the transportation sector is adopting the Advanced Clean Truck Rule. The ACT would gradually require a higher percentage of sales of zero-emission trucks in Maryland, giving both industry and infrastructure the necessary time to implement this transition to a cleaner sector. By requiring electrification of school buses and large pickup, delivery, and semi-truck, the ACT is a critical tool in this effort to combat toxic air pollution. Although there will be legislation introduced to adopt the ACT, this rule could also be adopted through executive action. Reducing emissions from the transportation sector is critical to achieve Maryland emissions reductions goals and improve community health, and those priorities are key to this end. And now I'll turn it to our political director, Kristen Harbison, to discuss another important priority for next year, community solar.
Great,
Kristen?
thanks, Ramon. Thank you. So when you think about solar, you can think of the utility scale solar, which are the enormous fields of solar panels that are built by our utilities to contribute to their requirement to put renewable energy into the grid. Then you have rooftop solar, which are where individuals put solar on their rooftops, and they benefit from having their own solar panels through reduced energy prices from what's called net metering. In between those two projects are community solar. Community solar projects are smaller projects that are built by developers that allow people to subscribe to energy projects, people who can't afford to put solar on their own, solar panels on their own rooftops for whatever reason. Either they don't have houses that are adequate to put solar panels on, or they can't afford it, or they live in apartment buildings, but they still pay their own electric bills. Community solar is a way for those people to be able to participate in the benefits of net metering and the reduction of cost that allows people to benefit from those costs, those cost reductions, and the solar energy economy. This project is a pilot program, however, and it expires at the end of 2024, which means that 2023 is the year that we need to work to make sure that this program remains permanent and that we make some fixes to it to better serve the low and moderate income ratepayers and households that would like to participate in these projects. Part of it includes making sure that it is qualifying under the Justice 40 provision, that at least 40% of the energy created by these community solar projects are reserved for low and moderate income households or those in census tracts that are identified as overburdened and underserved. At least 40%. So that will be in this updated legislation to make this community solar program permanent. The other thing is what's called unified billing, consolidated billing, which allows people who are on energy assistance to be able to to participate in the community solar program more easily. People who are paying if you have to pay your community solar bill separately from your other energy bills, then it becomes harder to participate. And so that's been a real barrier, and we're hoping to fix. So that's the broad outline of this program. We're very excited for it. There's been a tremendous support from a wide variety of sectors and organizations, leaders in the General Assembly, and potentially through the administration, to make sure that this program remains something that we have access to for the duration. This is an incredibly important part of getting to those goals that we've set forward for renewable energy in the state, and meeting our equity goals. So we're very excited about it. It's going to be an environmental community priority that will be featured as part of the environmental summit that will be on January 31st of this year. So thank you so much. And I guess I'll turn it back over to Kim, or to Laura. I'm sorry, turning it over to Laura to let us know how you can help.
Yes, thank you. Thank you, team. And thank you to all of you for joining us again today. We're really excited for you to be here and learn from all of our knowledgeable, talented experts here on our upcoming priorities. So we are hard at work turning these priorities into actionable work plans with budgets to guide our work. And with just days remaining here in 2022, now is the time for you to demonstrate your support. We simply cannot do our work without you. And we need your gift today to boldly advance our climate solution agenda. Your gift will empower us to educate and engage Marylanders through webinars like this and all the other work that we do in building collective coalitions, educating voters, and providing an avenue and opportunity to advance priorities through the legislative session and executive action this year. We are Maryland LCV Education Fund, the 501c3 education arm of our work, is running a challenge grant campaign here at the end of the year. Our generous and collaborative partner, US Wind, has issued Maryland LCV Education Fund a $10,000 challenge grant. So if, and really, truly, it's only if we can raise $10,000, they will match it dollar for dollar, but we have to raise that money by December 31st. So right now, we are very, very close to being halfway to that goal. We are at $4,144 as I signed on today. So we're asking you, our active conservation voters, to see if you can help us today to reach that $5,000 midpoint goal. The donation link is in the chat, but for those of you who can't see it, www.maryland, spelled out, conservation.org/donate/match. And every dollar counts, and it's a charitable tax-deductible donation made to Maryland LCV Education Fund. You have a variety of options. You can make a one-time gift today, or you can also commit to making a monthly gift that fits within your budget throughout the year. But either way, US Wind will match your gift 1-to-1. So new for this year, it is that if you commit to say $10 a month, that would be $120 for the year. US Wind will match that in full today so that your committed $120 will become $240 today for Maryland's environment. So it's a win-win-win situation where we can plan for our work and you are budgeting a gift to us throughout the year. So we ask you to please join us and show your commitment by giving that gift today. Your link's in the chat. You can also type questions into the chat. So with that final ask to financially contribute to our work, I'll turn it back over to Kim to help field your questions.
Thank you, Ramon, Kristen, and Laura. As you can see, I work with outstanding people, so it's fun to have them join us today. So I have there's some questions that are in the Q&A, so I'm going to tackle those first, and we'll try to get to all of them. Doug, your question about the 80%, 100% commitment for all energy use, or is it just electricity? Great question. What Governor-elect Moore has said is the goal is 80% of the energy generated in Maryland and 100% of the energy generated in Maryland. So of the energy that Marylanders use, 60% is generated in state. That's the energy that he's talking about turning into 100% clean energy by 2035. We do believe there's room for discussion about that consumption of energy, the other 40%, and are putting some plans together to try to see how we can address that as well. But Governor-elect Moore is specifically talking about the energy generated. And then there's a question, Ramon, from Charlie. He says, in Howard County, regarding electric school buses, the standard response from the county is that the buses are contracted and the county has no control. So what's our response to that?
Thank you, Kim and Charlie. Yeah, there's a couple of things that I would answer to that question, right? The first one is that number one, we're making sure that contractors are also eligible to apply for funding when transitioning diesel to electric school buses. So they have access to that funding to start procuring electric school buses to fulfill their contracts. That's one of the things that I think is very important, not just support the school districts, but also some of the contractors that provide transportation services for school districts. Then there is another thing regarding technical support. We acknowledge that an electric school buses is a different technology from a diesel buses, so there's a learning curve there. So we're making sure that there's adequate support for school districts, for contractors, in order to start using the technology, that they have support through all the steps that they need to take. That is very important for us. Finally, my understanding is that school districts sign entering those agreements with contractors. So whenever those contracts are due to renew, they can specify that they would like to enter in a contract for electric school buses. That's one simple step that they can take. But at the end of the day, in Maryland, there's a 2025 mandate. After starting in 2025, school districts cannot procure any diesel buses if there's funds available for that transition. And that's what we are working towards, ensuring that we are working with school districts, with industry, with contractors to make sure that the funds and the support available is there. It's available to support that transition. Thank you.
Thank you. And we also got a question about what we're doing around the federal funding that came from the infrastructure bill, as well as the IRA bill. Sorry, I can't remember what that stands for at the moment. So there's a lot of money that's available for the states through the federal government, and especially with these two programs that were passed recently. We are working with different groups and the administration to make sure that we can access those funds as quickly and readily as possible. Not we as in Maryland LCV, but the state and, most importantly, local governments. In fact, we have a staff person, Marissa Olczewski, who will be at the Maryland Association of Counties conference in January, giving information to county officials that talks about what funds are available, how to access those funds, the timelines that are involved, etc. So a lot of this is getting information from the feds down to the people at the state and the local levels to access those funds, and that's exactly what we're doing. So working on that for sure. There's a question about, Kristen, about community solar. What can be done about counties that are blocking community solar through harsh zoning restrictions?
That is a great question. I should mention also, I neglected to say earlier that we're very excited to be working with sponsors Luke Clippinger in the House, and Senator-elect Ben Brooks will be taking it up in the Senate for one of his first bills as senator. The bill that we're looking at right now is enabling legislation, so making sure that the state program still can continue. We're looking at other opportunities for incentives to direct money to programs to preferred sites, rooftops, blackfields, landfills, parking lots, places that where there's less conflict. It's more expensive to introduce them, to build those projects, but trying to find ways to equalize it. That doesn't necessarily get to your question though, which is, that is something that we need to work on pretty closely with the state. We need to work with the counties to make sure that we are able to get their zoning laws so that they can accept community solar more readily. This is something that will be an ongoing concern. Looking at issues of siting is a longstanding problem that we will need to continue to work on even once we get this enabling legislation passed. So I don't have a good answer for you, except that the work continues.
Yes, it does for sure. Paul, you're asking about an update on the PJM moratorium. I am not familiar with that. Ramon, Kristen, do we? Is there anything you know about that? Nope. Okay. Paul, we'll have to get back to you. I apologize. I'm not familiar with the PJM moratorium. I don't know how we could.
I know it's been difficult to get large scale solar sites, solar projects online because of backup in the PJM and connection with the PJM. I've heard that's been a problem. I think that there was some kind of an update, but I don't know what it was. So we'll just have to get back to you on that, Paul.
Right. And then, Kristen, can you, okay. So the question is about utility scale solar, and the PJM, just for folks, that is the grid, the electric grid that is all over the mid-Atlantic. It's Pennsylvania and Maryland and New Jersey and parts of New York. And so it's this huge grid, and we draw the electricity from that grid. That's how we get our electricity. And our generators dump electricity into that grid. We, as consumers, pull it out. So that's how that works. It's a very powerful system, not only in terms of electricity, but also in terms of politics. And they have, and they're also involved with siting and permitting of utility scale solar. There's been a logjam. The request for solar projects that's gone into PJM, I think there's been over 50 projects that have been proposed, and maybe 2 or 3 have been permitted. So there's a huge logjam there. This is an issue that we've brought up with the Moore administration, and we're hoping that some new blood at the PSC will help break that juggernaut, because it's a huge problem. The other thing is that the Maryland Commission on Climate Change has recognized this as well, and has brought it to the attention in their annual report. So I think that will help get some action on that as well. So Kristen, let's touch on real quickly the community. So we work in community with our other environmental partners. I saw some folks that are with the Sierra Club, huge partner group with us. There's Chesapeake Bay Foundation and CCAN and lots of groups that we work together. And we are, as a community, came together and identified some priority bills. Can you give us a quick summary of those, Kristen?
Yes. So there are 4 community priority bills that will be highlighted at the summit on January 31st, and the link is that in the chat. The 4 priorities are Maryland the Beautiful, which is a 30 by 30, it's an expansion on the 30 by 30 goals, federal goals to have 30% of our land protected by the year 2030. In Maryland, it will look a little bit different because already there are places that have significant land in conservation easements already. So we're looking, so that's, and then we're looking at making sure that there's a green space equity component to that, to again address the environmental justice concerns of inequitable access to green space. Community solar is going to be one of the 4 priorities for the community, as is empower reform, empower being the state program having to do with energy efficiency, making sure that that program is better connected with our state goals for climate, renewable energy expansion and carbon emissions reduction. And then the 4th one, oh my God. Oh, the 4th one is this, I'm sorry, the Sustainable Buildings Bill, which has come up several times in the last several years. And it's about architectural details to make buildings more energy efficient through, in ways that also help save birds from flying into glass buildings. It's a very specific bill. It's been passed on local levels, especially in Howard County, which is the driver of this bill at the state level. So those are the 4 top community priorities for this year. We'll also be working on tracking on the budget and making sure that the state is spending their money wisely on environmental priorities.
Great. So we have come to the end of our last Friday Digest for 2022. If we didn't get to your question here, we'll get to it through an email response. But I have 4 things before I leave. First of all, thank you. We really enjoy working with you. We need you Let us know how we can help you be a strong, informed, engaged, inspired advocate. And in the chat, there's an evaluation, a survey, 5 questions, won't take long. Please fill that out and let us know how we can help you, what information we can provide you in order to be that informed, inspired advocate. That's number 1. Number 2, hold January 31st. That's the Legislative Environmental Summit. It will be virtual, so you can sit at home in your slippers and enjoy that, but hold that date, January 31st. 3, I want to again echo what Laura has said. We want to be a resource for you. We want to help you be that engaged, inspired advocate for the environment. And we need your support and at whatever level is comfortable for you. So please help us get to our goals so we can help you get and we can all have a better, more equitable, safe, wonderful environment in Maryland. And my last message is I hope you have a very great holiday season, time with family, time with friends, time with yourself, relax, enjoy. And thank you again for being part of the Maryland LCV family.